Okay, so now moving on to Americans and Native Americans. First, we have the expedition of Lewis and Clark. Sacagawea helped Lewis and Clark to discover the Louisiana Territory. She was their interpreter. The significance is that it diffused tensions between Native Americans and explorers. At the Battle of Tippecanoe, it was caused by settlers pushing Native Americans westward for more land. The effect is that Tecumseh, the warrior, and the prophet attempted to unite all of the tribes east of the Mississippi River to defend their lands from further encroachment. And then that caused General Harrison to destroy the Native Americans' headquarters and Tecumseh's efforts to form an Indian confederacy. Next, the Indian Removal Act, which was passed by Congress signed by Andrew Jackson. It basically gave permission to remove Indians so that whites can have more land. Cherokee Nation versus Georgia stated that the Cherokee have an unquestionable right to their land, but they cannot sue in the Supreme Court. Next, Worcester versus Georgia, they ruled that the state of Georgia cannot control the Cherokee within their territory. Significance is that Georgia passed various laws that restricted authority of the Cherokee over lands. The Bureau of Indian Affairs that ensured Indians were properly moved of their land because not all tribes lived peacefully. The Trail of Tears, they were forced to leave the southern settlements because gold was discovered there. And thousands of Cherokees died because of the freezing weather, inadequate food supplies, and the escorts would move faster so that more Indians could die. Treaty of Fort Laramie, it was between the government and the aoush. The Native Americans got sent to South Dakota, and later gold was discovered there, so they were sent to the Black Hills. At the Battle of Little Bighorn, that was the only Indian victory. It was led by Crazy Horse and Sitting Bull, who refused to go to the Indian reservation. It was the only Indian victory because it was 10,000 Indian warriors against 200 or more whites. The Nez Perce, it was a tribe led by Chief Joseph. He revolted when the government tried to force them onto a reservation. He fled for Canada, he got caught, and then sent to Kansas and died from disease. The Ghost Dance, that was the last effort of the Native Americans to resist U.S. domination. They prayed for the day white people would be cast out of the Indian lands, and the buffalo would return, as seen in the picture. At the Battle of Wounded Knee, which was a reaction to the Ghost Dance, the U.S. Army sent to disarm Lacora and move them to the reservation land. The U.S. Army killed 200 more Indians, and that marked the end of Indian Wars. Next, the famous Geronimo, who was notorious for leading raids against the white people because the white people and the Mexicans killed his family. He learned to accommodate by being displayed at the World's Fair of 1904, him and other Native Americans. The displaying of the Native Americans showed the success of whites in vanquishing the Indians in military battles, and that whites could be educated and civilized if they would agree to stop being Indian. And if they refused to be put on display, they would die, get killed. The buffalo was used by Native Americans for basically everything, for food, for clothing, for the building of the huts. The Native Americans threatened to extinguish the buffalo, and then when the whites came over, they put further pressure on the buffalo population, on the already extinguishing buffalo population. Americanization, the Dawes Act, the Native Americans were forced to buy land and farm it individually to kill off traditional communal living style. This act aimed to reduce tribal powers by dividing tribal lands into individual parcels. The Carlisle Indian School, their goal was to civilize the Native Americans by making them speak English, wear white people's clothing, teach white values and customs. Their motto was kill the Indian, save the man. And that was supported by the federal government. Some tribes rebelled, some didn't, like the Cherokee of Georgia. They attempted to be as white as possible to keep their land, but that wasn't enough because we wanted their land. More present-ish kind of act. It is in the 30s. It was basically the opposite of the Dawes Act and the Americanization. And then some links to that basically summarizes our presentation. And thanks for watching.